All right, it's 103. Yeah, that looks about good. Well, welcome. I'm David Brandon. I'm a copywriter for Rainmaker Digital Services. I have Ed Bardwell here with me. You know him, uh,
You may
probably.
not know me. I am the president of RMDS, and when David shared the content calendar and he said you guys were going to be talking about landing pages, I asked if I could attend. Uh, this is a particular digital marketing strategy that I have a lot of passion about, and frankly, I think a lot of people create this mysticism around landing pages that frankly it isn't merited. Landing pages are a really powerful tool, and as part of either your web strategy or frankly any of your digital strategies, you need to consider many of the tenets of landing pages. So that's why I'm here. This is David's show. I will try to bite my tongue and let him kind of guide us through the conversation here today. But as I mentioned a few moments ago, I really do appreciate the opportunity to set in, share some thoughts, and certainly if there's questions that come up that we can't answer, I'm happy to get answers to those questions back to you guys as a result or after this call. So, David, with that, let's rock and roll.
Cool, let's go. So, I mean, we get a lot of questions about landing pages, particularly on the client services side. I wanted to take the chance, get this on the content calendar, and kind of talk to you, get into some specifics of things. So we have some questions here that people have submitted already. If you've submitted questions already, we'll get to those. But a lot of them are kind of general, so we'll give you a bit of an overview based on the questions that we've gotten. So first up, just real basic, landing pages are a specific type of page that we use to drive action. It's a landing, where you're coming down the funnel, you're landing on the landing page, and that's where you take action on something. Usually it'll have the navigation removed, so your sidebars or your top and bottom, header, footer navigation. It ends with a strong CTA towards a specific action, one specific action, and the copy and design are all tailored towards that purpose. So it's a page specifically devoted to getting people to take action. And it could be live all the time on your site, or it could be just related to a specific promo. So that's we had several questions kind of about the generic, like how does a landing page work? What are the, little things involved in that? But one that we got from Peter was, what's the number one piece of advice you have about landing pages? I'll get Ed in on this in a minute, but I want to say, like, for me, it's keep it simple. I come from a writing background. For me, like any 7th, 8th grade reading level, as far as your copy, not a ton of long words, short-ish, punchy sentences, keeping things as simple and easy to digest as possible, so that you're not detracting from, so that it's very clear that your message is driving towards the action. What about you, Ed?
Well, I think KISS is a good recommendation, but I'm going to take this a step further. Marketing in general is kind of like dating, and I'd love to take you guys through the whole presentation I have that is how marketing is like dating. There is an outcome expectation. Well, a landing page is kind of like going on a date to a wedding. And what I mean by that is it's very, very specific. Now, it can be KISS, it can be simple, it can be complex. But I think the most important thing that you need to think of as a business owner, as a marketer, or even as a writer is the intentionality of the page. Go ahead and keep adding those folks in. Landing pages are often thought of, okay, the only objective is sales. Well, that's nonsense. I think just by the names here, Sachin, I don't know you very well yet, but in general, landing pages can serve any specific goal. Okay, so it could be an email address. We've recently expanded our engagement technology beyond Rainmail to handle email and SMS. So, in a retail situation, we've all been in line and somebody says, go here, put in this short code or whatever the action is and get $5 off your meal or get a free dessert or whatever. That is a form of landing page behavior. And if you're going to use a landing page, the idea needs to be, what is the intention behind it? Because everything should cascade from that. Your content, your design, what are the metrics that you're going to use for testing? All of those things are derived by the goal of the page. So don't get caught up in this mysticism of, oh, it's a landing page, it doesn't have navigation. Okay. Frankly, I don't care about any of that. What is the goal of the page? If you can't answer that succinctly in one sentence or in a few words, then you don't need a landing page. You need to start over and you need to figure out what is the intention. Once you've got the intention, then you can go through the exercise of, do I have the right content? Pretty common question that we get. Should it be long? Should it be short? Well, there's great examples of both. There's great examples. Should the CTA be above the fold? Can it be below the fold? Can it be at the bottom of the page? Well, what's the intention? What is the user looking for when they come to that landing page? How did you drive them there? So it may not be KISS, but it is very intention driven. If you have that intention, it will work. Fancy technology like Rainmaker platform, great. Simple technology like an HTML page, it can do it too. Landing page has to be intention driven. Is that any questions about that? Is that pretty clear to everyone? Cool. All right.
Yeah.
I'll stop my soapbox.
No, you're good. I'm just sitting back and listening. Yeah, that's this is kind of a bigger discussion. Ed and I have been talking about, tactics and technology versus, just the fact that marketing is basically just getting a message to people. It's communication. Tactics, technology change, people don't. So if you're intentional about how to reach your audience, then that's the underpinning of it. You can change the tactics, but the 80% is the intentionality, as Ed's saying. The 20% is all this other stuff that we have some questions about here. Let's see. We had a few general questions about measuring, promoting, and writing landing pages. I think I want to say that was Sasha. Let me see here. Measurement. So yeah, for a landing page, the point is that people are taking action. So you should be able to track your click-throughs, your downloads, your form signups, whatever that you're getting. The statistic that matters for a landing page is that people are taking action, because that's the point of the page. You don't have a landing page unless there's a specific action that you're trying to drive towards. So yeah, basically, if you measure whatever it is, your form signups, your click-throughs, any of that, and it's very easy to do that on Rainmaker platform, or any other platform that you might use should have ways to do that as well. The promotion stuff, I think, is a little bit outside the scope of the Q&A. Basically, like, how do you promote a landing page? We could get into promotion design, but I think that's a little bit beyond our scope here. We could talk about that off call if you want to shoot an email or something like that, and we can hook you up some resources for that. As far as how to write a landing page, we got a question about that as well. I can give you some copy tips, but I could sit here all day and talk about, break down into specifics. How do you write landing page copy? It just depends how deep you want to dive. The method I use, and we actually have an article on this on our site. If you want to dig in a little bit deeper, I'll drop that link. I use ABC to kind of orient myself when I'm writing landing page copy. Number one, A is action. Make sure there's one action and it's easy to see. Make sure that CTA is front and center and very clear. B is benefit. Your copy has to be about what's in it for your audience. That benefit is, it's not the benefit to you as a company, it's the benefit to your audience. You really have to sit down and think about that too. Like Ed said, intentionality. Sometimes I've seen this several times where people write landing pages or they write promotions and stuff. I've done it myself, where you're thinking about your company and what your company can get from it, and not what the audience can get from it. And so your copy comes across, it rings false. It doesn't drive action. because your audience can see that you're in it for yourself. You have to start with, what does my audience want? What's in it for them? Benefit. And then clarity. Don't beat around the bush. Make sure your design is clear and easy to parse, and that your copy is clear and easy to parse.
And David, I'm going to jump in on that.
Yeah.
Again, I said a landing page is like taking a date to a wedding. I'm an old guy. I've been married a long time, and I've gone to a lot of weddings. Sometimes you go to a wedding with a friend. Yeah, you might dance with her, you might have a glass of wine or whatever, but you know that this is not one of those, hey, I'm test driving a possible, future bride or future groom. No, you know what the goal is. And as David said, you need to understand what your audience wants. Why have you been invited to this wedding, or why are you inviting this other person with you to this wedding? Is it to test drive a girlfriend or a new relationship? Is it, gosh, I've got to have a +1. I am just a +1. Okay. Are you going with your, I've got siblings. I've got 2 sisters. I'm going with my sisters because they really know the bride or they really know the groom. You need to have all of that understanding, because unlike, going to the game, there's parameters set within the landing page, and the landing page construct really does need all of that ABC clarity. All of those elements need to be defined so that there isn't confusion. The last thing you want to do in the reception is turn to the person that you went with and said, hey, I'd like you to marry me. And they say, well, you're my brother. That's a little bit weird. So we don't want to allow things like that to happen when you're creating these landing pages.
Yep. Do we have any questions on that? Any comments or thoughts? Maybe something that you've done yourself that might be useful for the group? If not, we'll keep moving. But yeah, we'd like to get some interaction, some conversation going. So this is not necessarily meant to be a one-way street. But yes, so ABC, that's kind of how that works. Yes, Sachin?
Hey guys, sorry, first of all, thank you guys so much. This has been helpful already and very insightful. Just a quick question regarding, and it's a little bit focused, but regarding video assets just being like not just on the landing page, but thereafter. What are your suggestions as far as like how they should be used and like where they should be used? For example, like just a video in the background of the landing page as soon as you get there, with some text on the front.
Sure.
So you're saying in the background, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me start with that. That's kind of a design question. So I'm going to chunk it up one level, and then I'll come back to your specific. The web has evolved. As much as guys like David don't like to hear it, the written word really doesn't matter as much as it used to. Video consumption is responsible for a significant, depending on the research you look at, anywhere from about 60 up to about 82, 83% of web content is in the form of video. Video is critical for your content marketing efforts. So I would strongly suggest you make sure that video is part of your overall strategy. Specifically on a landing page, again, not quite to your question yet, but using video to help establish the customer value, absolutely yes. But you need to make sure that that video asset isn't just a generic product demo or a specific pitch for the campaign. It has to still meet those same criteria. In some ways, video is both this micro asset and this macro communications device. It can play both roles because it functions on multiple senses at the same time. Now, that said, to your specific, I discourage fat or heavy media elements being included in the preload or in the load of a landing page. Assuming a standard landing page tactic of something like social media or advertising or email, trying to drive a prospect to a landing page, I am a strong believer that you need to immediately satisfy them. And regardless of the streaming technology, no matter how much compression you use, a video in the background will be slower than just a simple green background, purple background, or even an image background. So, yes, it plays a role, but I would not do it for aesthetics. Video should be editorial in the home or in the landing page. And then from there, it can become perhaps more of a design asset as you push somebody further through the page or whatever the case might be. Definitely below the fold. I would not put a video in that hero role at the top of a page unless you were going to be looking at a specific audience, like some of the Web3 audiences that don't really have a scroll, or they might be doing internal scrolling, and then that video is really the page itself. So does that kind of address your question?
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. Perfect.
Cool.
Yeah, and to Ed's point about like not putting the video as the hero, there's some real interesting heat mapping stuff out there that I looked at for an article a while ago. A lot of people start scrolling before the page even loads in. So anything that's like right up at the top of the page, a lot of times people are not going to see that. The when you look at a scroll map, the highest heat is at about 550 pixels and then moves down from there, at least in a desktop setting. So you will, if you have critical content right up at the top, like right as people load into the page, there's a good chance they're not going to see it.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool. Anybody else before we keep moving here? Alrighty. Let's see. I've got one from Peter here. So what's the question about landing pages you wish people asked but they never do? And I kind of rolled this in. The two questions that were kind of similar. What do you see as the thing people most frequently misunderstand about landing pages? I think we've covered a lot of this. I mean, if there's a question I wish people asked, going back to kind of our point about audience, how much convincing do I have to do to get people to take this action? Because to Ed's point about intentionality, if you're selling something that's fairly to the date, like, hey, if you're just going on the wedding date and it's one and done, you're just kind of getting to know somebody, as opposed to like you're serious about somebody. It's the same thing with the landing page. Like, depending on the product, if you have something, product or service, if you have to convince people, you need a lot longer landing page copy. I actually have an example or two here. I kind of want to show you.
Okay, and as you're pulling that up, the one question that I don't get asked, that I typically have to ask when I'm brought in for a strategy session as it relates to this, deals with the fact that a lot of people think of a landing page as the crown jewel of a campaign. And I would suggest that the question that needs to be asked is, how can I make my landing page work harder? And to me, I mean, I'm an old school guy. I mean, I was raised on broadcast and traditional print and outdoor. I took a couple companies public in the digital space back starting in the late 90s and through the 2000s. So I've been around long enough. And one of the biggest mistakes I see people making about landing pages is not A/B testing. There's nothing easier today than simply creating two versions. I mean, as David's pulled up this strong landing page that we're looking at, what happens if I hate blue? I don't. I absolutely love blue. I mean, Rainmaker's blue for a reason, but maybe the audience hates blue and this should be red or it should be yellow. I mean, there's all sorts of research on color. Well, how are you going to know? Gut is good. Me search is better. Research is best. The best way to get research, A/B test.
Mm-hmm.
Have I said that before? Maybe once or twice. So yeah.
Yeah. So that's a critical point. And the other thing about A/B testing, like sometimes I think people change too many things at once. Like if you're A/B testing, you can only change one thing at a time. Otherwise, it's not an actual scientific experiment. You don't know what the change is that actually caused any discrepancy between the two pages. Yeah. So what we're looking at right now is these are a couple of different Rainmaker platform clients that we have here. So we have two very different examples of landing pages, both good, but this one is Thyroid Pharmacist, which is basically she sells kind of books and like lifestyle change, like training programs to people. And as with anything health related, a lot of times it takes a lot of selling. So you see here, she's got tons and tons and tons of info with CTAs spread down the page so that there are jumping off points at each section. This is a very, very long landing page. And, you know, it may take this long of a landing page to actually sell your product. It depends on your audience and what you're selling.
But in that case, all of those CTAs do go to the same destination.
Yes,
But
they're not separate actions.
It is the same goal. So to the testing or measurement question that was asked earlier, you know, you may want to actually have each button have a different ID so that you can test location. I don't really care about that necessarily. I mean, certainly my intellectual mind is interested in that, but my business mind is, did they click and did they buy or did they convert? So having them all go to the same destination works, but you don't want to have, you know, the first section going to the monthly program, the second section going to the annual program, the third going to a trial. They all go to one destination. So that's what makes that page so powerful.
Yep. And then we have this other one, which is very, very simple, you know, very short, but this is also a much less, you know, as opposed to that's a much more expensive product that we were looking at just now. It's also much more involved. This is, hey, here's a couple of ebooks, you know, here's a couple of different options depending on what you're looking for. And this, you know, there's not even that much in the way of like convincing copy. So yeah, it just depends what your audience is looking for.
I actually was involved a bit with this particular landing page. You know, we've said one action, and hope I'm going to beat you guys to this one. Well, gosh, there's 3 different ebooks here. But the answer is no. I mean, these are actually 3 separate points of entry that gets the goal of the landing page. The goal of this campaign is really not the purchase of the ebook. The goal is to get somebody into the digital relationship with this site. You can buy one book, you can buy the other, you can buy both books and save $1 or £1. But that's really not the goal of the campaign. That intention is not, do I sell more of the practical activities or the collaborative activities? That's not the goal. The goal is to get the email address. The goal is to get the relationship open. And so anything that can be done there, you know, at least from in the eyes of this particular business, is fine, is acceptable, meets the criteria of opening the dialogue between a new prospect and the business for a digital, ultimately, membership relationship. I'm a big fan of using ebooks as a way of getting people to share an email address. This is a really easy tool for a landing page.
Yep. Cool. That helps having some of that behind the scenes knowledge. That's cool. All right. Let me go ahead and stop presenting here. So we're back to our video. So yeah, I think that kind of answers that question or a couple of questions from Peter. Let's see. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Anything else that you guys want to hear about? Maybe that we haven't touched on? Speak now or forever hold your peace. We do have, Ed, we do have a couple of like smaller things we could cover, but we're getting pretty close to 1:30. What do you think?
I think, yeah, there's the one last item that I know that you've got. Let's go ahead and address that, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, cool. Let's see. We've got our landing pages just for sales, which absolutely not. Like, it's not just a sales thing. It could be signing up for a newsletter. Rainmaker Dispatch, we have our own page for that. Could be downloading an ebook like we have Rainmaker Way or digital marketing for everyone else. It could be lead generation, SEO, a splash page, squeeze page. Ed, you have any thoughts on that as well?
Well, I think you said it very well. If you take away anything from this Q&A other than the ideas of keep it simple and have a strong intention before you select using a landing page, the idea would be that the more specific your intention, we're all in business to make money. We're all in business to help our customers. We're all, whether it's altruistic or completely selfish, we all have intentions. And it's pretty easy to say, oh, well, a landing page, anything that I do in marketing should ultimately lead to sales. I would strongly discourage that way of thinking, especially as it relates to landing pages. Some of the most powerful landing pages are those that simply say, pick me, not David. Dance with me, don't dance with David. And you don't even have to name David. I mean, you can look at, broad advertising. If I'm putting a Ford truck ad on a Super Bowl, you don't have to necessarily say Chevrolet trucks stink. You don't. It can be implied. And you certainly don't have to try to sell a Ford truck right there in your 60-second Super Bowl ad. All you're trying to do is say, when you're ready to think about trucks, think about Ford. Don't think about David. Don't think about Chevrolet. Landing pages can do that for you. Landing pages meet an intention, have a specific goal. And as long as it does that, make sure your measurements tie to that, and you will be headed in the right direction for not only that specific marketing tactic, but your overall business, for sure.
Cool.
You said it very well.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks to everyone who made it to our Q&A. Ed and I had a great time talking to all of you. Stay tuned for Rainmaker Digital Services' next Q&A in May, and if you have any questions, comments, or thoughts you want to share, reach out to us at rainmakerdigital.com/contact.